Guest says the tax hikes are not part of an economic recovery. Carolyn Harris is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Vice President of Tax Policy and Economic Development, and she joins us this morning. Caroline, thanks for the time. It's great to see you.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Can't say that the administration hasn't at least primed the environment. They said they were going to take corporate back to 28. Can you talk about what kind of pushback they may get from the business lobby?
Sure, absolutely. So I think we worked really hard for 31 years to get corporate tax reform, to accept certain base broadeners to get that rate to 21%. So I think you're going to see a pretty strong pushback. The chamber, we're talking about this in the context of infrastructure spending. We strongly support addressing America's crumbling infrastructure and doing so with long-term sustainable funding mechanisms, user fees, muni bonds, Build America bonds, existing financing facilities like through TIFIA that provide access to credit. We support all of those. What we don't support is changing that corporate rate from where it is and harming the ability of American companies to compete globally.
One of the points you make is that when we went down to 21, it wasn't just a strict cut to 21. There were other measures that business gave up in terms of the way you could deduct R&D expenses and a lot more. And your point is it's not as simple as moving down and then moving back up the scale.
Absolutely. We accepted base broadeners. As you said, this wasn't a tax cut. This was tax reform. We accepted, the onset of less favorable R&D treatment. We accepted more limitations to interest deductibility. We accepted a repatriation tax payable over a number of years. So it wasn't a cut. It was truly reform.
Caroline, since 1980, corporate taxes have averaged 1.7% of GDP. They're currently at 1%. Why shouldn't we move a bit higher?
Sure, thanks. I'm so glad you brought this up. I think, first of all, using the 1% metric, the year the U.S. and the globe faced a global pandemic that was a black swan event. So it's probably not the year to use a benchmark. We do see in that CBO budget window of 10 years that tax share going up. But look, traditionally, we are, in that window going to go back where we've been before. We have relied in that level of corporate taxation, for 30 years. So I don't necessarily think that we need to be that concerned about that short term, that 2020 is the right benchmark, nor do I think that corporate income taxes are going to have the positive impact on growth that we need right now to get through this recovery.
Yeah, so. I mean, the tax bill, a lot of it didn't pay for certain things, but those people in high tax states who are no longer able to deduct their state and local income taxes certainly were some of the people making up for what was given to the corporations. Do you think that should stay in place as well if we get new tax reform, or should that be lifted as well?
Look, I think that's very much something that blue state Democrats have talked about, the SALT cap that you're referring to, that we cap the deductibility of state and local taxes in tax reform. That's particularly impactful in those states that are high tax. I expect it to be part of the conversation, but I'm not sure how that plays out.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.